Imagine a place holding the secrets of empires, the correspondence of kings and popes, and records spanning 2 millennia. This isn't a fantasy novel, it's the Vatican Apostolic Archives, one of the most enigmatic and heavily guarded collections of documents on Earth. For centuries, its contents have fueled speculation, conspiracy theories, and academic dreams. But what if, one day, the massive bronze doors swung open and every single document was released to the world? What would we actually find? First, let's clear up a common misconception. The archives aren't just one big, dusty room. They're a sprawling complex with over 53 miles of shelving, housing documents that chart the course of human history from the 8th century to the present day. Think of it as the ultimate historical database, chronicling everything from papal decrees and excommunications to the Church's diplomatic dealings with virtually every nation on the planet. So, if these archives were suddenly digitized and uploaded for one text search, what would be the immediate impact? The first wave would be an absolute tidal wave for historians. For centuries, access has been incredibly limited. Scholars have to apply, specify exactly what they want to see. And even then, they're only given a few documents at a time. It's a slow, painstaking process. An open archive would be like switching from a dial-up modem to fiber optic internet overnight. Academics' energy would descend upon the data, cross-referencing documents, connecting dots that were previously impossible to see. Our understanding of the Renaissance, the Reformation, the Age of Exploration, and countless other periods would be rewritten or at least significantly enriched. We'd get unfiltered, first-hand accounts of Gaspratia between popes and figures like Michelangelo, Galileo, Napoleon, and even Abraham Lincoln. The level of detail would be breathtaking. We could read the original papal bull excommunicating Martin Luther, or the desperate pleas from Mary, Queen of Scots, before her execution. It would be the single greatest leap in historical research in modern times. But it wouldn't just be about famous figures. The archives contain countless records of ordinary people's lives. Parish records, letters from a missionary in a remote village, tribunal proceedings for heresy. These documents would give us an unprecedented, ground-level view of daily life, faith, and struggle across centuries and continents. Genealogists would have a field day, potentially tracing family lines back further than ever before. Social historians could reconstruct entire communities. Cellula por cellula. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The controversies and conspiracies. Many people believe the archives hold explosive secrets. Things like proof of alien contact, the true identity of Jesus, or a hidden bloodline. Let's be realistic. The chances of finding a crashed UFO schematic or a birth certificate for Jesus' descendants are virtually zero. These are the stuff of novels, not historical archives. The Church, for all its secrecy, is still a human institution, run by record keepers, not supervillains. However, that doesn't mean there wouldn't be bombshells. The real secrets are likely to be far more terrestrial and, in many ways, more unsettling. The most significant revelations would likely concern the Church's political and financial dealings. For centuries, the papacy was a major political power, forging alliances, waging wars, and amassing immense wealth. Opening the archives would expose the raw, unfiltered machinations behind it all. We would see the full extent of the Church's involvement in a vasta gamma of global events, for better and for worse. For example, the archives related to World War II are a source of intense debate. While Pope Pius XII has been criticized by some for his public silence on the Holocaust, the Vatican maintains he worked tirelessly behind the scenes to save lives. With full access, we could finally see the unvarnished truth. The memos, the diplomatic cables, the internal debates, all of it would be laid bare. This wouldn't necessarily settle the argument, but it would provide a complete factual basis for it, moving Yongjing beyond speculation. Similarly, the full history of the Inquisition would be exposed. While scholars have already done extensive work in this area, unrestricted access could reveal the scale and methodology of these tribunals in terrifying detail. We'd read the transcripts of interrogations, the justifications for torture, and the internal debates about a proceso that lasted for centuries. It would be a chilling and necessary confrontation with a dark chapter of religious history. And then there's the more recent and deeply painful issue of the global clergy abuse crisis. The archives almost certainly contain extensive records of complaints, internal investigations, and decisions to move abusive priests from parish to parish. The release of these documents would be devastating. It would provide victims and their families with answers they have long been denied, but it would also trigger a legal and moral firestorm for the Church, potentially leading to new waves of lawsuits and a catastrophic loss of trust from the faithful. The institution would be forced to confront its failures on a scale it has never had to before. The economic impact would also be huge. The Vatican Bank has long been shrouded in secrecy. Complete financial transparency could reveal centuries of investments, property holdings, and secretive transactions. This could expose entanglements with controversial regimes, questionable corporations, or even organized crime, as some have alleged. The fallout could destabilize the Vatican's finances and force a radical restructuring of one of the wealthiest organizations in the world. So, in the aftermath of this great unveiling, what would the Catholic Church look like? It's hard to say. For some of the 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide, these revelations could shatter their faith. Seeing the very human, flawed, and sometimes corrupt inner workings of an institution they hold as divinely guided would be a profound shock. It could lead to a mass exodus from the Church. For others, however, it might have the opposite effect. This radical transparency, this willingness to own its entire history, the glorious and the shameful, could be seen as an act of immense courage and humility. A new, more honest Church could emerge from the ashes, one that has fully reckoned with its past. It might attract a new generation of followers who value truth and transparency above dogma and secrecy. Ultimately, opening the Vatican archives wouldn't reveal aliens or a holy bloodline. It would reveal something far more complex and important: the unvarnished story of humanity. It would show our capacity for immense faith and creativity, but also our capacity for cruelty, greed, and a terrifying willingness to justify our actions. It would be a mirror held up not just to the Catholic Church, but to all of us, forcing us to grapple with the messy, contradictory, and deeply human story of our own past. And while it might be painful, that kind of truth is always worth knowing. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the hidden corners of history, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries. See you next time.